Harry continued to be the Duke of Sussex, and Meghan the Duchess of Sussex once Charles is king. That's actually increasingly in doubt based on the latest revelations from Tom Bower's new book on Harry and Meghan called Revenge. And it sounds like Charles is this close, if not has already decided, that he will strip Harry and Meghan and their children of their future titles as soon as he becomes king. And I think I understand why. I'm gonna go over kind of Prince Harry and some of the revelations about his utter betrayal of his family. But if you guys haven't been to Royal News Network before, hello, my name is Brittany, and I talk about everything related to royals, and that's news, gossip, fashion, jewelry, television shows, movies, and history. I do it all right here, so if you want to subscribe, that would be great. And like I said, I'm going to go over these excerpts from the Times of London. So Tom Bower is coming out with a new book, and it will focus on Prince Harry and Meghan Markle and some of basically the things that have gone wrong for them, and how really reading through this book, it just confirms so much of what me and others have thought over the years about Harry and Meghan's actions. And again, I think it shows that I think they've already lost their titles, and that's going to be an absolutely humongous blow to them. So let's just first go over some of what these excerpts were in this piece that came out on Friday and show you kind of, I think, where things are heading for Harry and Meghan, and it's not good. It's really, really not good. So the first thing that was kind of revealed in this article, and this was actually in the second paragraph, and something that kind of went, I would say, probably a little bit viral. When it came to Prince Philip's funeral, the Queen said in regards to Meghan, "Thank goodness Meghan is not coming." Obviously, Meghan was heavily pregnant during Prince Philip's funeral, so she gave birth on June 5th or 6th, I believe, or 4th. And Philip's funeral was on April 18th. And so I understand why she probably wasn't there. But it also is surprising, if this is true, goes to show that the Queen is not a fan of Meghan Markle. And again, that's not a huge surprise. Meghan's just not a very likable person. Oh, and if you haven't watched my video about why I don't like Meghan, I do have that down below, and I'm working on a part 2, maybe even a part 3 to that video, because I feel like it is helpful for people. Moving on, it says, during that short procession, many watched whether Harry signaled any regret towards his family. Some interpreted his sideways glance towards William as an outsider's unease. No one grasped the truth about Harry's nervousness. So this was about a month after Harry and Meghan's explosive interview with Oprah Winfrey, basically making racist allegations, saying nobody helped Meghan when she had a mental health crisis, yada, yada, yada. And I have actually a whole video on that where I kind of debunk a lot of the things that they said on that video, so I'll link that video down below as well. I've always thought most of what Harry and Meghan said in that video was hogwash, and I stick by that assumption. I think only about 5 to 10% of it was actually true to fact. I think Harry and Meghan both exaggerated. I mean, they couldn't even agree on what the racist story was. Meghan and Harry actually had 2 different versions of it. So again, but you understand why he's nervous. The ramifications of this interview are continuing to ongo, and he has something else in the wings. No one grasped the truth about Harry's nervousness. In the 4 weeks' time, his Apple TV series about mental health would be broadcast. Transmission had been delayed until after the funeral, which is kind of disturbing because that means that maybe it was scheduled to air even before the funeral aired. I have not actually watched. It's called The Me You Can't See. I haven't actually watched it because I didn't want to give it views. Didn't want to give Harry any views. But I may have to go through the recesses of that video at some point. It goes on, looking at his family standing in St. George's Chapel, Harry must have known his damnation of them in the Apple TV series would widen the rift. Sitting alone and isolated, the 94-year-old monarch's grief was concealed behind a black mask. Everyone was moved by her dignity. William looked tense, Kate serene, Charles visibly anguished. Only Harry's expression defied accurate reporting. Flapping his order of service against his thighs as he left the chapel, he was clearly impatient. No one knew that Harry, the once adored young prince, had betrayed his whole family. After the service, eager for signs of reconciliation, the media seized on Kate's maneuver to engineer a conversation between the brothers. Cameras followed them as they walked up the hill towards the castle. Later reports of the aftermath veered between a 2-hour conversation conversation between Harry, William, and Charles and a perfunctory exchange before everyone departed. Few realized that Harry wanted to return to California as quickly as possible. The three princes spoke briefly before Charles drove to his cottage in the Brecon Beacons in Wales. William was handed the burden of rescuing the monarchy from the damage caused by his brother and his uncle Andrew. So you gotta feel sorry for William. He is stuck with a brother who has gone off the rails. You know, his grandfather just died, and the media keeps clamoring for this reconciliation, which for me, I don't think would have ever happened if Harry doesn't basically and Meghan grovel and apologize. This is just not going to happen. And this was right before the Me You Can't See, and that was just going to widen the rift. And you got to think as well, Harry may be thinking, well, did I do the right thing? Did I say the right thing? And considering that this was a funeral and a family moment, the family just, again, has looked very united over this last year. The outliers are Harry and Meghan. Ergo, Harry and Meghan are the problem, not the monarchy. So once again, Harry and Meghan have really they're terrible at PR. They're so utterly horrible at it. There's no other way to see it. They've just mucked this up royally, literally, and it's just continuing to go downhill. Now it came the Me You Can't See. Buckingham Palace finally understood very precisely on May 14th that the Sussexes were beyond control. Apple TV released Harry's broadside called The Me You Can't See. And Harry denounced William, who he had previously praised as the only person he could, quote, could trust, unquote, and dishonored Charles, whom he had previously thanked for being so, quote, kind, for causing a cycle of genetic pain, quote unquote. He had even criticized the Queen, despite saying she was hugely admired. All eyes were cast as William villains responsible for his cycles of suffering and unresolved anger. Comparing his life to a mixture of the Truman Show and being in a zoo, he said of his family, "I've seen behind the curtain, I've seen the business model, I know how this operation runs, and I don't want to be part of it." Instead of being reconciled with his family, he had an effort monetized his anguish. And I think that's incredibly telling about how twisted Harry has become. Because he's really, and I'm actually going to do a video on this because it kind of came to me, Harry's really exchanged one palace prison for another, really. Him and Meghan just apparently don't do that much in Montecito. They just drive around, they cycle around, and it sounds like, based on this article in GB News, that they actually go to lunch by themselves quite a bit. And so how close are they? I don't know. It doesn't sound like, they spend any time with their children outside the home. That could be totally wrong. But there's even no kind of record except for one time that Meghan took Archie to nursery. If that even pap walk was real or if it was staged, who knows? She likes to stage these things. Do they ever go out with their children? The children were never seen at polo, which is generally considered a family event. So what do they do all day? I have no idea. And I think Harry, he just doesn't understand fully what he's done. I think it's starting to really dawn on him. And I hope this book reveals some things to him that, oh my gosh, I've been had. Because I think Harry's way back has always been just to come out and say, I was totally misled, manipulated by Meghan. He has to throw Meghan under the bus. That's the only way he gets at least some of his reputation back, is to essentially just completely throw her under the bus. And the way she does it is to throw him under the bus. So he's in a lose-lose situation, the way they've always been. And it's just incredibly sad that he's monetized, quote unquote, his genetic pain. But he's not addressing it. He's complaining about it. He's complaining about all of it. So is he really addressing it? Or is this a gigantic worldwide grieving session so that he can whine about his lot in life? That's just from a standpoint of trying to get out of the bubble of the monarch. This is just idiotic thing to do. It doesn't make any sense. I think it's become clear that Harry is not dealing with any of the mental issues he supposedly has. Whatever he had is just made worse. I think it's a lot of it is Meghan's manipulation of the situation, gaslighting him, going, we were supposed to be the stars. And there's a whole article about basically how Harry, well, mostly Meghan, thought she was a star, that she had made it after one single tour, and proceeded to basically, you know, she was always in it for the American side of things. She didn't care about the British. And Harry doesn't understand that she never cared and is gaslit him into coming to America because that's the only leverage she has to actually fulfill her dreams. Is to leverage him, his title, his family to do it. And it's just sad that he fell for it and that he continues to fall for it. Goes on to say, ramping up his earlier accusations aired in the Oprah Winfrey interview, Harry described how he and Meghan felt bullied into silence. I thought my family would help, but every single ask, request, warning, whatever it was, just got met with total silence, total neglect. We spent 4 years trying to make it work. We did everything we possibly could to stay there and carry on doing this role and doing the job. Meghan was struggling. Even while they negotiated their departure, hunted and helpless in London, there were forces against us. Who rebuffed Harry's pleas remains unidentified. The palace struggled to understand why Harry should publicly criticize the Queen and his dead grandfather for their upbringing of Charles. America's men were gripped by Harry's advocacy for therapy. He credited it with removing the stigma of admitting to anxiety and depression. Okay, I don't think, based on if you watch Harry, that anybody is really inspired by his mental health advocacy, except for people who would have already bought into whatever he said, because he doesn't seem like a mentally healthy person. He just doesn't. He actually seems worse since marrying Meghan. But looking at this as well is, if you look at the articles that came out on Saturday, it's clear that what Harry and Meghan wanted, really what Meghan wanted, is zero critical... if you look at the articles that came out on Saturday, what Meghan really wanted, and I'm sure berated Harry into demanding, was just exclusively positive coverage, absolutely controlled by Harry and Meghan, really Meghan, that it had to, every news coverage had to follow a certain party line. And if they went out of that line, if the press criticized her in any way, she went ballistic. That's not them protecting you. Because the press in the UK and in any country with a monarchy, if you are a member of the royal family, you are open to criticism because you are living off the taxpayers. So you are open to criticism. Yes, there's some private sources of funding, but it's really taxpayers. And so if you're going on tour to the Commonwealth, you are open to criticism. Anything you do is open to criticism. You are not immune to it just because you are a member of the royal family. In fact, you're even more vulnerable to it. So I think that's where Meghan just did not understand and could not understand, and Harry did not help her understand. I don't think Harry could have helped her, because I think she would have gone ballistic either way. She refused to understand, and Harry refused to help her understand. The gulf between the Windsors and Harry was widening. 5 days earlier, Harry had nailed his colors to political campaigning at Vax Alive. Harry told the audience that Pfizer and other pioneers of COVID vaccines should abandon their intellectual property rights and let poorer countries have their patents for free. President Biden supported that gesture, but it was opposed by Britain and the EU. Harry's participation would have been impossible as a member of the royal family, as would have Meghan's 2-minute video. She weighed in by asserting that women of color have been disproportionately affected by COVID. Women's progress, said Meghan, had been wiped out for a generation. I don't think that's true. It then goes on to talk about, the birth of Lilibet. And obviously we know that Lilibet, Harry and Meghan already grabbed the website lilibetdiana.com before she was even born. So this was very much something planned. And in addition, I kind of understand them grabbing the website because she is a famous child, so somebody else could use it. But again, Meghan is all about monetizing everything. So even if she did it for good reason, people would question it, and they're like, well, are you trying to monetize off your children? Well, I mean, of course they are. That's all they've done, is try to monetize off everything they do. So it makes sense, but it also is, again, a bit cringy. And this confirms as well that the Queen was told Lilibet was being named after the Queen without saying, well, we're using Lilibet, not Elizabeth. However, this says that basically she was told that they were naming her Lilibet, and she didn't really have any say in it. So once the BBC got word that actually the Queen was not happy with it. They reported about it, and then Harry and Meghan, of course, raised a fuss. However, things got interesting. Once the BBC broadcast that report, the Sussex's PR machine was activated. Meghan's spokeswoman claimed that Harry would not have chosen the name if the Queen had not been supportive. Fired up by the Sussex's anger, their lawyer Shillings announced that unless the BBC apologized and withdrew that report, the Sussexes would sue for defamation, seemingly pitching Harry against the Queen. The palace supported the BBC. The Sussexes retreated. The Shillings threat evaporated. The Sussexes were defeated. So yes, there is a way to defeat Harry and Meghan. And as it turns out, yes, they did not officially request the Queen's permission to give their daughter her precious nickname. And she was not happy about it. The next big section we have is kind of about Camilla being queen. So Harry and Meghan had no reaction to the announcement that Camilla would be queen consort. I think she's actually done an exceptional job in a very, very difficult situation, and I think she deserves the title of queen. But Harry apparently, much of his memoir, it was actually, I think, my second or third video, might actually be focused on criticizing and basically trying to portray Camilla in the most negative light possible. And this will be something that his father vehemently would be very, very upset about. Prince Charles and Camilla are and Camilla's had a very high recently. She was actually in a photo shoot for Country Life. Catherine took the pictures. Her and Catherine are very close. There was a cute little video. I'm actually going to do a whole video about how Catherine and Camilla are actually the real feminists and Meghan is a fake one. So watch out for that video as well. But I just think it's very interesting that, again, Harry is going after his father's wife, the woman that he's loved for decades. And it just, what I find kind of weird is that Harry, again, is kind of going after this Diana narrative that I see a lot, even on this channel. Oh, you want Meghan to die just like Diana did. No, nobody said that, A. And B, Diana died in a drunk driving accident. She did not die. The paparazzi were a strong contributor, absolutely. But if her driver had been sober and she had been wearing a seatbelt, she would still be alive. So I think Harry, though, has, jumped on this narrative that I think Meghan and a lot of Americans believe, which is that Diana was killed by the paparazzi or killed by the palace for going against Charles. And this is just fundamentally untrue. So I think, again, he's going down this very dangerous path, especially if one of his big targets in his memoir is Camilla. It says most Britons could not understand Harry's seemingly hostility towards his country and family. What many saw as his disloyalty to his grandmother was particularly mystifying. Occasionally, he appeared willing to betray every value he formerly held dear. Now, again, this is kind of interesting because I think what Harry and Meghan have always made a very, very strong indicator that what they really want is to protect their relationship with the Queen. She's the nice one. She's the good one. She's the one that they don't disagree with, blah, blah, blah. But I think the real thing is Harry and Meghan want to protect whatever access they had to the monarchy. But again, I've said this in other videos, and this goes back throughout history. You can't just suck up to the current monarch. You have to think of the ones in the wings. Because the ones in the wings can undo everything that the previous monarch did. Talk to the Tudors about it. Because King Henry VIII was Protestant. Edward was also Protestant. Then under Mary, it went back to Catholicism. And then under Elizabeth, it went back to Protestantism. So you have this kind of flip-flopping nature. And that's just something, so it all comes down to the whims of whoever has the crown. So I think Harry and Meghan, again, utter failures at this, Machiavellian intent. I mean, they really, really suck at it. They may think they're good, but they really, really suck at it. So it also comes out that Harry and Meghan, yes, they did really, really want to be on the balcony for the Platinum Jubilee. That was my opinion, and I thought the palace would say no, and that's exactly what they did. They said no, only working members of the monarchy, because Harry and Meghan voluntarily stood back. They're the ones who made that decision. However, To keep their deals with Netflix and Spotify, they're desperate to maintain that royal connection. And again, because they were so stupid in Mexit. Like, the Mexit thing was utterly idiotic for them to do at that point in their time within the monarchy. They didn't stay long enough to actually make people actually kind of fall in love with them. They made one trip, thought everybody loved them, and that they could do whatever they wanted. That's in the video, in the article that came out on Saturday. Just every decision has been just one catastrophe after another. And again, they only have themselves to blame when it comes to this. It says, keeping Andrew out of sight was one problem. Another was Harry and Meghan's demand also to appear with the Queen on Buckingham Palace's balcony. If the three outcasts did successfully appear in the spotlight, the media's focus would no longer be on the Queen's achievement over 70 years, but on her dysfunctional son and grandson. Inevitably, the public's reaction would be unenthusiastic. The obstacles for Meghan and Harry to appear center stage were considerable, not least because their presence was opposed by Charles. That's important. Charles preferred that the Sussexes as private citizens were not invited onto the balcony or to the ride in a royal carriage. Instead, they would be confined to the VIP enclosures. In Meghan's view, those optics were unsatisfactory, partly because her value to Netflix was to stand near the Queen. To achieve this goal, Harry asked the Queen's resident advisors. When this failed, he asked the Queen if he could visit her in Windsor on his way to the Netherlands for the Invictus Games. To secure her agreement, Harry appeared to give the impression that the meeting would offer an olive branch to clear the air. At the last moment, keen to see her grandson and instinctively forgiving Meghan. Remember, the Queen is a very devout Christian, so her instinct is to forgive Meghan. The Queen agreed to meet the couple on April 14th. William avoided the problem with a previous arrangement to ski with his family in France. So the Sussexes then go to Windsor. They were late apparently, and the Queen insisted that they meet with Charles and Camilla right beforehand. I've heard that meeting was only about 15 minutes. Then they sat down to have tea with the Queen, which apparently went off mostly without a hitch. But obviously I think machinations to try to get themselves on the balcony completely failed. Followed by Netflix cameras, the Sussexes proved themselves modern and compassionate as they faultlessly mixed in The Hague with the athletes. Always smiling and dressed in an unending change of expensive clothes while watching events, Meghan played the stunning hostess and pledged to offer service to the world. I kind of disagree that she was a stunning hostess. I mean, all she did was parade around in very expensive clothes, and seemingly she interacted with people a bit, but it was all for the cameras. It's not really because she really cared. She cared because she wanted to be the center of attention. But as later events seemed to show, festering was their fury that the palace had refused all their demands for a prominent role at the Jubilee in return for returning to Britain with their children. So they were basically trying to hold the Queen and Charles hostage by saying, we won't bring the kids if we're not on the balcony. Which, if that is true, it may determine why Harry and Meghan perhaps didn't bring the kids, as many people suspected. Then Harry went on, obviously, and did the NBC interview, which obviously the palace and the rest of the royal family was kind of furious about. They really are their own worst enemies when it comes to PR. Her 4 children and 7 other grandchildren he implied were excluded from her confidence. More inflammatory, he declared his duty was to make sure his grandmother was protected and got the right people around her. Charles, Anne, William, and all the Queen's staff implied Harry were inadequate for the task. He appeared to speak from the heart. It seemed Harry had resumed the war against the family. The olive branch media headline about his visit to William splintered. Because again, Harry and Meghan are their own worst enemies when it comes to PR. So it ends like this. Within those few minutes on television, Harry had demonstrated the danger of his appearance at the Jubilee celebrations. Everything was about himself and Meghan. Merely 4 years after Harry and Meghan's wedding, the royal family had been transformed from a relatively harmonious group embracing multiculturalism as part of their service to Britain and the Commonwealth into a beleaguered institution uncertain of its future. To their harshest critics, the Sussexes have become agents of destruction. So you could go on this path that, the Sussexes are agents of destruction. I don't believe that. I think actually that monarchy is more actually harmonious and actually doing much better without Harry and Meghan in the picture. But the big thing I got from that article is that Harry is probably going to lose his title as Duke of Sussex once Charles becomes king. I think it's pretty sure Harry's going to lose that title. Powerless over events in California, Charles had good reason on his accession to strip the Sussexes and their children of their titles. The Sussexes' status depended substantially on their royal titles. Every appearance or statement was issued under the label the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. Neither considered it odd to honor the Queen, yet damn her as a bad parent to Charles, or label her family as racist and neglectful of Meghan. And the reason why is simple. Charles wants to be king. And he wants, even as brief as his reign is probably going to be, he does not want his errant and wild card son and his crazy wife ruining that for him. So I think one of the first things he will do is strip Harry and Meghan of their titles of the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. I don't think the Queen will do it. And the reason why is she doesn't want the fuss in the last years of her reign. She really should, and she's probably not going to. I would say probably the Duke of York, Prince Andrew, is probably going to be in the same boat as Harry and Meghan once Charles becomes king. And you could just really tell in this piece that Harry has irreparably damaged his relationship with Charles and his brother William. And he's clinging to the Queen, who's 96. She's a woman who just wants to live the few short years of her life left in relative peace. And so she does, kind of sort of welcome Harry and Meghan in. Not because she cares about Meghan. I don't think that's really totally the case. Although, again, she is a devout Christian woman. She wants to see her great-grandchildren, of course. But when it comes to the future, it's all William and Charles. And they are going to be leading the charge as soon as Charles is king. Charles does not want a wild card son who's a loose cannon, who says stupid things constantly. Every interview Harry does, he says something stupid. Again, the First Amendment is bonkers. It's like, no. The First Amendment is about free speech, free religion, and free association. It is the foundation of this country. If you don't get it, you can go back to the UK. That's perfectly fine. We'll actually ship you on your way out. Half the country, I think, would be happy to see them go. But Harry and Meghan, it's just clear, have just been incredibly, frankly, stupid about this whole post-Brexit thing, their relationship with the monarchy. They are the architects of their own demise. They've clung to these titles, which is hypocritical to me. Because if you hate the institution, if it's racist, yada, 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 get rid of the titles. Stand on your own 2 feet. But they can't. Everything they send, they have to sign it. Harry, the Duke of Sussex, with the T capitalized. Meghan, the Duchess of Sussex, with the T capitalized and the. They have to remind us all the time that they're the Duke and Duchess of Sussex because they have nothing else. They have essentially no other talents. So William and Charles, I think, are looking at all this and thinking to themselves, okay, Harry and Meghan have basically hung themselves with their own actions. They are not somebody we can hold to account to protect this institution. And again, Charles wants to be king. William wants to be king. They don't want Harry and Meghan making some stupid mistakes and costing them their chance on the throne. So what's the first thing they're going to do? Is kick the two of them to the curb. That's, I think, the first thing probably Charles and or William are going to do. No more Duke and Duchess of Sussex. It's gone. And Harry and Meghan, again, have only themselves to blame. Because all they had to do as royals is walk 2 feet behind William and Catherine and Charles. I mean, the hierarchy of the monarchy has always been there. It's never stopped being there. That Harry wanted to blow it up because Meghan was frustrated that nobody, that the trumpets didn't blare every time she lifted her finger and did a charity engagement tells you a lot about her. It was all about the show. She wanted approval every time she did anything. But that's not how a monarchy works. It's about working diligently for the people. And Harry and Meghan made a disastrous mistake by jumping ship too early. They had to give it at least 5 to 10 years. They had to. They had not gained enough goodwill of the public. They had one tour that they went to that they had huge crowds for. And the reason they had huge crowds is because you are the new face of the monarchy. People are just genuinely interested. If you had come at a different time, would people care? I don't think so. Just this Tom Bower book has shown that Harry and Meghan are the only reason that they're going to lose the titles. It's only that they couldn't get along with Charles or William. They focused too much on the Queen. And like I said, a monarchy is all about not only sucking up to the person at the top of the pyramid, it's sucking up to the ones who are going to be next monarch. And I think Harry and Meghan are they're really hedging all their bets on the Queen somehow protecting their titles and the future titles of their children when she dies, which I don't think she's going to do that. And even if she does, Charles can just undo it. There's no reason why Charles can undo it. So their emphasis on the Queen, to the lesser extent Charles and Williams, have left them incredibly vulnerable. And we shall see what happens, but I don't think they'll be Duke and Duchess for long after Charles is king. Well, guys, let me know what you think of those excerpts. I'd love to know your thoughts and opinions. It was a very, very interesting piece, a lot of interesting stuff about Harry and Meghan. So, guys, again, thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. Bye!